guys, Kevin Elizabeth here, a wedding photographer and bridal boutique owner based in San Diego. I was going to put out a react to Say Yes to the Dress video today, but my computer crashed 3 times and I lost every single thing that I filmed, and I just can't do it again. So I'm going to wait for them to put out some more clips, and then that way I won't have seen them and I can respond to them. So hopefully next week I will have that ready to go for you guys. I spent so much time setting it up. But anyways, today I thought it would be a good time to do like an update on wedding planning during COVID, during the pandemic, which we are still very much in. So I will be talking all about that today. First things first, there is a pandemic happening. It is real. People have died. It is still going on in the United States. It is really bad. Okay, we're hitting record-breaking numbers of cases in certain states. So first things first, if you were planning to have a wedding in the next couple of months with more than your immediate family, I'm going to say that that might not be the most responsible thing to do unless you have a small enough guest count that it is feasible to get all of those guests to have a COVID test, like a rapid COVID test within 2 to 3 days before the wedding, and then they know that they're not going to be going out and having a chance of contracting it in that time. Because the last thing that you want to do is have invited these people to a wedding together and someone gets sick because somebody else there was sick, and it's a super spreader event, like a mini super spreader event, and someone gets seriously sick because even if, say, one person had it and it's not that bad for them, somebody else could have it and die from it or have really bad complications for a really long time. Not only that, they could be laden with hospital bills that are really hard for them to afford. So it's just something that I think it is the bare minimum to be responsible in hosting an event during a pandemic. And I know that it is really sad. For those of you who've had to postpone, thank you for doing so. I think it was the smart decision to make. I know it is really sad to have your wedding pushed, but I guess maybe the silver lining is that you are not alone. Almost every other bride has had to do that, and this has just been a really awful year. This was supposed to be a good year for so many people. 2020 sounded really cool, and it all just went to shambles because of the coronavirus. I own 2 wedding businesses, and this pandemic has hit the wedding business extremely hard. So I am not loving life right now, but I'm certainly not going to be hosting parties anytime soon. So if you are insistent on having your wedding in the next couple of months, maybe even the next 6 months, where the vaccine might not be out yet or it might not be widespread enough for it to really be effective for herd immunity, what I would really strongly consider that you do is pare down your guest list. Number 1, try to keep it as small as possible. And I had somebody come into my boutique recently who said, we might have 400 people instead of 800 if COVID is still going on. That is not responsible. That is really, really, really bad idea to have hundreds of people at a wedding in a pandemic. It's a really bad idea. So I'm sorry, I hate to judge, and it's not even judging. It's just scientifically that is a really bad idea. So what I mean by small is try to have your guest list under 60 people. That is big to some people, extremely small to some people. If I was going to have my wedding right now, I would have probably 25 people tops. Everybody would be COVID tested. We're gonna get there. Try to have it under 60 if you can, okay? This is if your wedding is already set, it's still going on, it's not at a time where you think the virus might be over. The next couple of months, you gotta have a small wedding. It's just the most responsible thing to do. Try to get everybody tested. Of course, host your wedding outside. If you were originally going to have your wedding indoors, see if you can move it outside. Even if it's a tent that is not covered on the side so you have some airflow, anything you can do to reduce the chance of something spreading in your event is going to be responsible. So again, small guest list, try to have everybody COVID tested if you can. Make sure that they know to not like go out and like go a bunch of crowded places between the time they got the test and when they're gonna get the results, and then try to move everything outside. Those are gonna be the really, really helpful things that you can do to reduce the spread of COVID or the potential outbreak of COVID at your wedding. You don't want to be responsible for something like that. It is not worth it when you can have the wedding when the pandemic is not going on. Now, what if you're saying, well, getting married is really essential for us? Well, then go get married at the courthouse. You can totally do that. You can buy a cute little outfit, make a day of it, go responsibly dine out outdoors somewhere afterwards. You can still do that part and get married, so you have all those legal benefits, you're married officially, but have your party later. That is perfectly acceptable. Everybody would understand, and you are probably gonna have more people who are saying yes to actually attend that wedding once it is safe to do so. So those are just my top tips for those of you who are getting married in the next couple of months when there's no end to the pandemic in sight just yet. So for those of you who are planning for later in 2021, what I recommend to you is to still be cautious. So perhaps you go ahead and have your guest list and you have marked out the people who are core. So if for some reason the coronavirus is still going on, maybe you have to cut down your people, or maybe you can't invite as many. You already know who those core, preferably under 60, under 40, under 30 people are going to be. And then you have another list of people who you still really want to invite, but if worst case scenario, COVID's still going on, it's not responsible to have that many people, those people simply don't get invited. They're not the core essential people that need to be at your wedding. So that is the first thing I would do, is just go ahead and map out that guest list. Second is, why not go ahead and see what you can host outside whenever possible, or not in a really small place with poor ventilation. This is just in case, this is cautious. I personally think having a wedding outside is really awesome. I love outdoor receptions. You get more natural light, which for me means that I am happier as a photographer for longer. I don't have to start using my flashes as early. It's just beautiful natural sunset light that your guests are going to get to enjoy over dinner. So I think that's a really great idea anyway, but you can always plan for that. Have a backup plan. If you're inside now, COVID's still going on, make sure your venue has an option that you can use if you have to have your event outdoors. In terms of hiring your vendors, if you have not already hired your vendors and gotten your venue secured for your 2021 date, please do that right now. Vendors are filling up twice as fast as normal because all of the 2020 brides that postponed have already taken up their services on those dates. So it's going to be harder to find people who are available. Another thing you can do to kind of plan for COVID is to maybe choose a Sunday date, and that way it's not going to be as hard to find vendors and you're still going to get that beautiful wedding. The Saturday to a Sunday is not a huge deal. So that's just one small little tip you guys can do if you're having trouble finding vendors for your 2021 date. Another thing is to make sure that you get your wedding dress now. Even if you're getting married in November 2021, December 2021, which is about a year out from now, go ahead and get your gown. Normally I would tell brides to get their gown about 6 to 8 months before their wedding day so that it is ordered, it comes in, you've got time for it to get here, and then you have time for alterations because dresses typically take 4 to 6 months to arrive. Then you need time for alterations. So like 6 to 8 months is pretty good. But with COVID, I'm telling brides to now go no less than 8 months before their wedding, ideally as early as possible. You cannot be too early when it comes to getting your dress because if COVID has another outbreak in the countries where a lot of designers host their factories, it could really delay things. Or if the postal service has really bad delays again, you want to make sure that you're prepared and order as soon as you possibly can. One other thing that you should probably do is check your vendor contracts to see about their rescheduling procedures. So in the event that you would have to push your 2021 wedding date further out to 2021 or maybe even to 2022, you want to know how that works. So a lot of vendors will have it so that you can transfer everything you've paid as long as they're available on your new date. So just have that in mind so you know what the procedure is, and if you have to postpone, you're ready to go. It doesn't have to be this horrible ordeal. You've got a plan and you're ready to postpone. You know what all your vendors are going to do and you will be okay. You will get through it if that has to happen. Now with your invitations, I would recommend sending those a little closer to the wedding date than normal because again, we don't know what's happening. You don't want to have to send out your invitations too early. So maybe 2 to 3 months, 3 months if your destination wedding is the typical time frame. I would now maybe say a month and a half to 2 months, especially if you're not doing something in the summer where people are going to be going on vacation, because we don't know what things are going to happen. It is more likely that you're going to know a month and a half out from your wedding than you would know 2.5, 3 months out from your wedding if it is still going to take place or if all of the people you invited are going to be able to attend, as opposed to if you have any guest limit restrictions set by your county, state, or the country itself. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is just send your invitations a little closer to the wedding date. Maybe also your save the dates, send them closer to the wedding date than you would normally do if there was not a pandemic going on. A couple small things that you can include for your wedding for 2021 planning is to make sure that you have items like hand sanitizer out and available. Those normally are not available at weddings, but it might not be a bad idea to have some plan to take, or get your planner to take them for you to the wedding, just so that they're out around the venue so guests can use them to make sure at least their hands are staying clean. I know the virus is very much airborne, but you never know. Like it doesn't hurt to have less germs on people's hands at your wedding, because they're going to be touching a lot of things, touching a lot of people. Lots of stuff is going to be going on at your wedding. So having hand sanitizer as a little like checklist to bring to your wedding is not a bad idea. The last thing that I want to bring up when it comes to planning for your weddings, which you could do this for your upcoming wedding or your 2021 wedding, is to have a plan for virtual attendance. So a lot of people are having Skype or Zoom, some sort of online platform where people can attend the wedding from the safety and comfort of their own home. This is really great for people who are immunocompromised, people who are more susceptible and at risk to the virus. So a lot of people have been doing that this year, and that's a really great way to still have them included, but they're not there. So there's no risk of them getting sick, whether they had to travel to get to you and that's what they're scared of, or the wedding itself they're a little bit nervous about. So it's a really nice idea to go ahead and start planning that as an option. Maybe you won't have to use that by the time your wedding gets here if we've had a vaccine and the virus is starting to actually go away for once. You might not have to use it, but it is a really good idea to go ahead and start looking into platforms and finding somebody who can be responsible, whether it's a hired professional or somebody who's good with technology who can set it up at your wedding. So that is a really great plan to have in effect. For those of you getting married in the rest of 2020, maybe even January, February 2021, I would say that you are very likely going to need to do something like that to include the people who can't attend. 2021, just have it as a plan. You may or may not need it. You can technically do whatever you want with your wedding within the confines of your venue's rules. You may be ballsy enough to break your county or your state's guidelines. I would not do that because I would not want to face any penalties from that. I would also not want to be a vendor at an unauthorized illegal gathering. I would not want to have that tied to my business. I will not break the law for a client. It does not matter who or how much they're paying me. I would not do that. But you can choose to proceed with your plans even if they are not the safest thing. But I would strongly suggest that you reconsider, because again, the wedding itself, even though it's so amazing and it's so exciting, it's so fun, you've been planning for it, and I totally understand that, the wedding celebration, the party itself, the gathering of people is not essential. It is not necessary. The marriage part might be essential and necessary for you, and again, you can go to the courthouse and have that done. You can get legally married, make a little fun event out of it, but the actual party with lots of people from different households is not essential. It can wait, and I promise you it won't be any less fun if you are pushing it 6 months out to be safer. I really highly recommend that you do that. If you think that the virus is not real or that it's fake or not a big deal, please, please, please try to not think like that. There have been so many people who have died from this, and then so many people who haven't died but who have chronic, lingering, horrible issues they now have to deal with. I have met people who had the virus, said now they have different medical issues that they never had before, and they feel horrible, and if they hadn't had COVID, they wouldn't have gotten this. So this is something that does need to be taken seriously. Please don't make light of it. Maybe you've had it and it wasn't that bad for you, but for other people, it has been bad, it has been fatal. So please respect that this virus is a serious thing, and just try to do the best you can. Try to take every safety precaution that you are willing and able to take in order to host your wedding. This is very serious, my tone is very serious, but this is a really big deal. Again, you don't want to be responsible for people getting sick from attending your wedding. That is not good for so many reasons. You might even be able to be sued by people. Who knows? Like, you just never know, but you don't want the heartbreak of knowing that people got sick from your event, and whether they just got sick or they got sick and died or they got sick had horrible hospital bills, got sick, and now have horrible lingering issues. You don't want that on your conscience. That is not good. So just plan as much as possible. The best thing that you can do if you are getting married in the next few months is make sure that all of your guests, maybe even your vendors too, get COVID tests. And if anybody has a positive result, they cannot come to that wedding. So that is a really, really smart thing you can do. It's not a guarantee because again, maybe they could contract it like the day after the test if they're not being careful, but it is the best precaution that you can take at this time. So please just take all of this into consideration. I want everybody to have a really fun wedding. And honestly, I think postponing, if you still have the chance to do so, if you can postpone to a time when the virus is over, it's just gonna feel a lot better. It's gonna feel less stressful, less restrictive. You might have more of the wedding that you want. So that is, again, another option you have. It's really never too late to postpone the wedding unless it's like a couple days out and people are traveling. People will understand if you do decide to postpone like a month or 2 months out. It is not going to be a huge deal in the long run. It might feel awful and disappointing now, but you might just want to consider postponing to a time when you can have the wedding with everything that you want and none of the things that you don't want going on. So I know this was a really serious video and something that was not very exciting and fun to talk about, but it is really important to consider. So I hope that you guys did find this video helpful and informative. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I will be back with more fun content over the couple of coming weeks. If you guys have video ideas, please leave them down below. I am once again running out of ideas, so let me know what you guys want to see and I will see you next time. Bye!